Hey guys, Miss Sewing here, and in today's video we're going to talk about voting rights during the 50s and 60s, which is a major issue during the civil rights movement. Voting rights is also known as suffrage. So you might see that term used to describe what we're talking about today. So during this time period, you see Black people protesting to end racial discrimination in voting, which was a huge problem during this time period. And we want to remember that, just because people have the right to vote on paper, the reality is much different. So Black men got the right to vote with the 15th Amendment, and women got the right to vote with the 19th Amendment. But even though, again, that's on paper, that wasn't the reality. Many white people were refusing to register Black voters. So some of the ways that Black people were stopped from voting were using things like poll taxes and literacy tests. These are examples of Jim Crow laws, those ways of separating Black and white Americans. Voting rights received a lot of protests about gaining these rights. You can think of physical marches, physical protests like the March on Washington, led by Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders, and also voter registration efforts. So groups like SNCC, and which stands for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, their projects like Freedom Summer, their goal was to increase the amount of Black voters, and also just to bring attention to this problem that while Black people had the right to vote on paper, they weren't actually able to get registered and cast their votes safely. This all ends with a law. Lyndon B. Johnson, president at the time, 1965, passes the Voting Rights Act, which officially bans racial discrimination in voting. We know, looking at what goes on in the world, that just because a law is passed doesn't mean everything is fixed, but this was a huge step forward.